Sounds spooky? Excellent radio, podcasts, and commercial-free hits. Classic Halloween playlists. Truly terrifying Halloween on iHeartRadio. Take us everywhere if you dare. Easy and free.
This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
Hello everyone, I'm Naomi Kyle and welcome back to This Week in Gaming. This week we're catching up on Space Marine 2 Backlash, another PlayStation exclusive comes to PC, ghastly gaming events, and I review last week's Xbox partner preview. We've got all of this week's gaming news, let's hop right in. Last Thursday, Microsoft broadcast their Xbox partner preview event. The presentation showcased 15 games and their trailers over the course of about 25 minutes. Since this was a partner preview, the games shown off were only games from third-party publishers. That means there was no Halo or Gears of War during the event. Regardless, the games shown off are created by some of the most prolific game developers of this generation. Microsoft kicked off the event with a new trailer for the Alan Wake 2 DLC, The Lake House, which comes out on October 22nd. There were a few horror games that made an appearance during the event, like Chronos: The New Dawn, a new game from Bloober Team, the development team who worked on the Silent Hill 2 remake, then the sequel to Subnautica, Subnautica 2, which was revealed in a trailer that triggered my thalassophobia. Speaking of phobias, the multiplayer horror game Phasmophobia was announced that it is migrating from PC and being made available to play on consoles starting on October 29th. Mixed in with the Halloween scares was a special treat. The indie darling Animal Well was shadow dropped for Xbox gamers during the presentation. It is playable right now and is one of my favorite indie titles of this year. There were a couple of experimental shooters during the event as well. First, there was Blind Fire, a shooter that puts emphasis on lighting or the total lack thereof. Then we took a look at Mouse PI for Hire, a boomer shooter that takes inspiration from Doom and combines it with a classic cartoon aesthetic. If there was an award for Best Video Game Title of the Year, it would no doubt go to Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. This new entry in the Yakuza franchise introduces what is probably their wackiest game yet, and it comes out on February 21st, 2025. There was a trailer for Eden Zero, a game based on the anime that is coming later in 2025. Eternal Strands allows you to manipulate giant monsters with elemental spells. It is releasing later in 2025 also. Annapurna Interactive announced Wheel World, which is a racing adventure game designed around the joys of cycling. Wheel World comes out in early 2025. Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers is a dark action adventure RPG with an emphasis on combat and boss fights set in the final years of China's Ming Dynasty. Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers releases in 2025. Microsoft, of course, saved their best announcement for last. FBC Firebreak is a multiplayer first-person shooter set in the world of Control. In this co-op shooter, you play with two of your friends as members of the Federal Bureau of Control to protect FBC headquarters from the supernatural. FBC Firebreak comes out in 2025. Bethesda announced that they'll be celebrating Fallout Day for the first time this year with a special broadcast event on October 23rd. While some fans may be hoping for Fallout 5 news, it looks like the event will be centered around updates for Fallout 76, with developers John Rush and Bill Lacoste giving a sneak peek at what's in store. Fallout Day is an annual celebration of the Great War in the Fallout universe, similar to N7 Day for Mass Effect fans. And this year's festivities is set to include charity efforts from Fallout for Hope. The broadcast, set for 3 p.m. Eastern Time, will feature developer interviews, but unfortunately, no word yet on Amazon Prime's Fallout series or any Fallout 5 announcements, but one can always hope. We'll keep you up to speed on what gets announced in next week's episode, so for now, please stand by. Space Marine 2 has been a massive success for the Warhammer franchise, but since the addition of their recent 4.0 update, fans of the game have expressed outrage. The 4.0 update was initially designed to add a new map, enemy, and difficulty. However, additional fixes in the update have resulted in reduced damage and defense for the player character, which many have reported result in reduced fun. players upset by the increased difficulty have taken to review bombing Space Marine 2 on Steam, which has collected over 1,200 negative reviews in just a matter of days, resulting in a mixed user score. Space Marine 2's publisher Focus Entertainment caught wind of player dissatisfaction towards the latest update and have publicly announced that Space Marine 2 will be receiving a patch in a week to rebalance difficulty in the game. We'll be dissecting this growing trend of review bombing video games later on in the show, so stay tuned. During New York Comic Con 2024, it was revealed that Spiderman 2 will officially be playable on PC when it releases on Steam and the Epic Game Store on January 30th, 2025. This announcement makes Spiderman 2 the latest PlayStation exclusive to migrate to PC. Nix's Software, who ported Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales from PlayStation to the PC, will also manage the development process for the PC version of Spider-Man 2. Nix's community manager, Julian Halbrechts, said in regards to the announcement that we are excited to continue this collaboration and bring Marvel's Spider-Man 2 to PC with a suite of enhanced features, including enhanced ray tracing options to take full advantage of a variety of setups and configurations. I love to see that more PlayStation exclusives are reaching a wider audience on PC, and I can't wait to see what the modding community has in store for the game, since unfortunately it seems like we won't be seeing any DLC for Spider-Man 2, but more on that later. The next Call of Duty set to drop next year is reportedly taking players back to the future with a Black Ops 2 sequel set in the early 2030s. This according to details from a focus group, corroborated by Insider Gaming, suggesting the game will pick up right where Black Ops 2 left off in the year 2025. Featuring David Mason as the protagonist and mechanics like body shields and omni movement from Black Ops, plus the ability to throw human shields with grenades attached to them, it sounds like this new installment is going to be a whole lot of fun. Plus, Zombies mode will also apparently introduce an 8-player experience to top it off. And while all of this is being worked on, developer Infinity Ward is also reportedly working on Modern Warfare 4, which is expected to drop as soon as 2026. So lots more Call of Duty in the future, if you can believe it. What we know for sure is that Black Ops 6 is launching this week and couldn't have us more stoked, and just in time for Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, with the holiday fast approaching, you can expect the standard Halloween fare like trick-or-treating and costume parties, but what do you do if you're introverted and just a little too old to be staying out past 10 p.m.? Well, there are those of us who might stay in and watch a scary movie or throw on a little Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Personally, nothing gets me in the Halloween spirit quite like booting up a scary video game. So I thought I would go ahead and put you onto a few games right now that are getting me hyped for the spooky season. Fall Guys might not be the first game your mind goes to when you think scary, but what they lack in the spooky department, they make up for in holiday spirit. The Falloween event adds a new Halloween-themed Fame Pass, mini-games, and costumes, plus the live event Bone Chill Bob's Boutique, which starts on October 22nd and gives players the opportunity to earn in-game currency and costumes by completing challenges. The Falloween event runs from October 8th until November 5th. Dead by Daylight keeps the eerie vibes going all year long, but when October rolls around, they pull out all of the stops. Dead by Daylight's Halloween event, Haunted by Daylight, introduces a 2 vs 8 mode and adds new killers and maps. Players can also download items from the New Void collection, which adds new skins for killers and survivors. The Haunted by Daylight event runs from October 17th until November 7th. And Overwatch 2 introduced their latest season, Spellbinder, which introduces a new PvP mode called Junkenstein's Laboratory. The new mode introduces mutations that players can pick up in their loadout. These mutations range between common and legendary mutations and can either affect a single player or the team as a whole. The new mode is available to play from October 15th until November 4th. And now that you got the update on spooky game events, it's now time to go over the video games releasing this week.
Games out this week.
On October 22nd, Linked Banner of the Spark and Forest Hills The Last Year launch only on PC. Fae Farm flutters over to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Batman Arkham Shadow serves up justice exclusively on the MetaQuest 3. DLC for Alan Wake 2, The Lake House, creeps onto PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Then on October 24th, Yakuza Kiwami gets ported over to the Nintendo Switch. The Smurfs Dreams dives onto all platforms. Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven gets a fresh coat of paint on PS4, PS5, PC, and Switch. And on October 25th, Ys 10 Nordics launches on PS4, PS5, PC, and Nintendo Switch. Sonic X Shadow Generations finally drops and speeds onto all platforms. And, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 marches onto PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and launches day one on Xbox Game Pass. The Epic Game Store is offering just one free game this week, Moving Out, which will be available for download from October 24th until the 31st.
Quest complete.
So that's the news for this week. It's now time to chat with our guest, Kahlief Adams, who returns to chat about the effects of review bombing on our industry, why Spiderman 2 won't be getting any DLC, and speculating on this week's Fallout Day event.
Select game mode. Multiplayer.
Kahlief, a regular on our show. We're so happy to have you back. How you been?
So good to see you. It's so good to be here with you. I'm excited to rock and hang out with you, for sure.
There is just a couple stories I wanted to touch on, and I don't actually know if I've ever gotten your official stance on this, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I have. Review bombing.
Yes.
What is your stance on this? I don't feel like we've maybe spoken about it. I might have spoken about it with other folks, but I don't think
terrible.
I have with you. It's terrible? Okay, good. Let's hear why that is.
It's awful and it's terrible. Well, I think the thing that you have to pull away from a lot of that stuff, right, is what is it trying to do, and is it actually kind of giving any value to anyone in the system, right? If you're a fan of a game and you're trying to find a way to make a good purchase, that information doesn't necessarily come through in a way that is good for you. If you're a person who's working in the industry and doing work on that end, and you're looking to see, how is my game doing, that also skews the numbers in a really weird way that doesn't really reflect exactly the way the audience is feeling. So it just feels like a level of spite that happens in a space that doesn't do anyone any good. And it really just doesn't bring any value to anyone in the space. So I'm really against it. I think it really brings a negative connotation to, art that could be really well received, while also not giving anyone in that space any good information to be able to use to adjust or to, talk to their fans or talk to a larger community in any of those ways. So I really don't like it. It's a really bad practice that we've seen happen right now.
Yeah, it's become a very regular thing that we've seen a lot of. Is there any point where developers should take into consideration the demands of the community, and how do they balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a give and take all the time. I think I always talk to the relationship between developers and the community and gamers in general as being symbiotic. It is a very important thing to think about when you are creating a space and creating a game, and feedback is always welcomed. I think I'm a person who believes that every level of feedback is a good level of feedback, even if it comes to you in really disparaging and terrible ways. There is also a nugget of truth that comes through in some of the information that you get, if it's not super just like off the wall and just like has nothing to do with what's happening in the actual reality that we live in. I think there's a layer there that you can take away and hopefully find some goodness there. But I think for developers, it's always a really tricky line, because you have to listen to what audiences are saying to you with also a grain of salt, knowing that most folks who are playing games have no idea how the work of making games goes, right? The classic just fix it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
There isn't any ask there. There
Yeah.
isn't a thing that you can pull away from that to make decisions and make changes for that stuff. So I think, as a developer myself, as a person who's been in development spaces, it is always a thing that you have to account, but you also have to take it with a grain of salt. And you also have to find people who are really knowledgeable about your product. And you have to find people who are understanding of not only what you're trying to convey, but they have to also give you some grace in the space of learning about what your product is, while also continuing to revamp it and make it good for them. So I think there's a balance and a give and take there for sure.
How then should developers approach getting feedback from a community, and how do they combat review bombing? Because it's kind of become the norm at this point. So is there a way, something that they can do to say this is the better route and maybe push against continuing this trend of review bombing every time something goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are always official channels to kind of level up good feedback for folks. Like most folks have a support channel. Shout out to every community manager out in the field who's doing that work and fielding some of that information and giving that back to their development teams. And in terms of honestly, like what is a good thing that we have to think about, and the thing that I would love to see happen is we see a lot of review bombing happening on mostly one platform, and that's Steam, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Steam has to crack down on that stuff in their way. Like that's my call to action, is less about the developers, because there's not a lot you can do about what the audience wants to say to you. But I think there's a level of discernment there that has to come from Steam, where those folks are looking at this and saying, does this actually feel like this is a reasonable gripe? Does this feel like this is a reasonable level of feedback? Or is this just trolling? Or is it just people being mean to developers because they also have an agenda? So I think there's a layer of work that has to happen from the platform holders. And I think there's a hope that the community will understand good, constructive ways to send that feedback up so that people can actually make changes that they want to see.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a world where developers advertise, like, join our community where we will listen to your feedback. And there's guidelines and there's rules and stuff. And people maybe get a reward for joining it. And to hopefully show that the review bombing isn't working, but we will listen to you in this other platform, in this other way. Because, I don't know if Steam were to take a stance and all of a sudden someone dropped a review and their review gets deleted, there will be backlash on that front too. So I wonder if there's a way to do it where Steam can prevent review bombing and do it in a way that doesn't upset people further.
I mean, in a weird way, and this is a hard thing to say out loud because I never want to give the X platform any love, but community guideline stuff that you've seen on their a lot of their tweets, where there are folks who can up level, or if you've seen something that feels like misinformation, and people will push back against that and say, well, here's the actual thing that happened. Mm-hmm. I think there may be a version of that happens on Steam that makes a lot of sense. Of course, there would be some back and forth there between a lot of different factions there, but I think Steam has to do a really good job of cracking down on actual feedback as opposed to things that are just being sent to inflame and to make the space even more gross than it has been.
And ultimately, a review bomb, no matter what, hurts the developer. It hurts their sales. Yeah. It hurts all sorts of things. People can see when that happens and it'll affect the score. Now all of a sudden this game isn't super well liked. It's got mixed reviews, or it's falling into the other category, which it can be their worst nightmare. And
last point, it devalues user reviews. It makes true. User reviews not useful at all, right?
Yeah.
Because then if you're seeing all of these numbers come down and you start to look through them, you're like, well, none of this makes any sense, and none of this is really helpful to me as a person who's trying to make a purchase. So it does no one any good, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if Steam ever takes a step in that direction and starts to tackle this, because it's become the norm. Like this past year, there's been a review bomb very often being reported. So I've had this conversation before with other folks. So it's become a common thing. And I think it's something that they should start to address. I agree with you on that. Let's pivot a little bit to the news about Spider-Man 2 DLC not happening. Insomniac made the decision they won't be releasing any DLC for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 1, the first title, had like 3 DLCs, if I recall. Why do you think Insomniac made that decision?
I really do think that they're just pivoting to the next games that they're making. Okay. I feel like they're on that wave of, we know Wolverine is coming, we know some other things are coming down the pipeline, and to a certain extent, it makes a ton of sense. Like, now is the time. I'm sure that they have been into development for multiple years on those games already. And now, you've kind of seen all the juice you're going to be able to squeeze out of Spider-Man 2. It's now getting a release on PC as well. So now that's going to change, who's going to be able to play it, or at least broaden out that audience. But yeah, I think they just don't have anything else to show in that world for now.
Right.
I think we'll get some other goodness in that space, but not that.
People were speculating it was perhaps because of the leak that happened. You don't think it's because of that?
I mean, if it is, then that's your fault, internet. You did that to yourself if that's the case and that's what we wound up seeing. But I hope that's not it. But I really do think they're just moving on to the next thing.
All right. And lastly, we had news, I think, drop yesterday about Fallout Day. Different outlets have speculated different things. It might just end up being a nothing burger. But is there anything that you're hoping to see during Fallout Day? Are you a Fallout fan?
A huge Fallout fan. Excited for more of the Amazon Prime show. Excited
me
for
too.
that because I'm a big fan of what they're doing there.
Such a great show.
So well done, like super, super well done. This is the first time I've been actually stumped. I haven't seen a lot of stuff ready to go in the Fallout universe. I am hoping that they're working on a new game.
That'd be fun.
We haven't heard anything from Bethesda in a very long time about Fallout. But I think maybe we get. I don't want this to be the case. I don't want any more remasters either, though. Like that's the thing I'm thinking. I'm like, please don't give me another remaster. I don't want that, please. But if there's anything that would probably come up on a day like that with no new game announced, it would be a remaster probably.
Yeah, of like New Vegas or something.
Yeah. Or it might get some up-resed 4
Oh
or
yeah,
something. You know, like 4 has been in the weeds for a bit and hasn't gotten any new love and any treatment.
And it got a resurgence because of the TV show, all the mods that they got added, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Bethesda's been doing a lot of good work on console to add mod support. So I think, that is also a thing to think about as well. Like, you can do more now in that space.
Yeah. Do you think we'll hear anything about the season 2 of the Fallout show?
Please, please, please. I need it. I need it as fast as you can possibly drop it. I need more of that goodness. It was just
some sneak peeks, maybe some set photos, something.
Yeah. Because they just left us on a really good cliffhanger, and I was just like, all right, it's time to go. So it's kind of
they really did.
Yep.
Well, hopefully we'll have more news. Obviously, the event hasn't happened yet, but when it does, I'll have the report. I'm hoping for a big surprise. I'm always hopeful for that. But thank you so much, Kahlief. Always such a great time having you on the show. Playing anything fun lately?
Ooh, I'm playing a bunch of Predecessor. I'm waiting for Black Ops 6 to drop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goodness coming. I'm
Lots of Call of Duty.
I am on so much Call of Duty about to happen right now. My carpal tunnel is going to be on fire. It's going to be great.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Kahlief. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kahlief Adams is founder and host of the Spawn on Me podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Kahlief Adams.
Flawless victory! Continue!
And that's This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle, and I had such a great time bringing you all the latest in games. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks to my co-writer, Josh Seaman. Don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think of these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle on social. From all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a gaming-filled week. Thank you for always tuning in, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Talk to you later.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.
Halloween on iHeartRadio. Sounds spooky? Excellent radio, podcasts, and commercial-free hits. Classic Halloween playlists. Truly terrifying Halloween on iHeartRadio. Take us everywhere if you dare. Easy and free.